Yo, what's going on, fellas? So today I'm bringing you a new sorceress I've literally never seen anybody play before, and that is the Glacial Spike Sorceress. So the only time I've ever seen this skill really used is kind of as a secondary, but actually I am mainlining the Glacial Spike this particular time, and if I don't say so myself, it actually works pretty dang good. So let's jump right into me showing you exactly how I put it together and what exactly this thing can do. So here we are in showing you the build. We're going to start up with the stats page first, usually, of course. So just enough strength to wear your gear and just enough dex as well. Dumped all the rest into vitality, pretty standard there. You see the resistances. Fire and lightning are the most important. There isn't really a ton of monsters that do cold damage in the game. You could swap things around if you really cared to get this pumped up higher. I don't care. So I went ahead and just left it where it's at. I survived perfectly fine. And poison res isn't going to be super important because of one particular gear piece, which you'll be seeing a little bit later. Skill tree, pretty basic, so let's go ahead and take a look, and it's probably about what you'd expect. 1 point wonders of static, telekinesis, and of teleport here on the lightning spell skill tree. Hopping over to cold, like I said, Glacial Spike is the one we're mainlining. You see you get plus damage from Ice Bolt, Ice Blast, and Frozen Orb. So we're going to go ahead and pump those up, max all three of those out, maxed, and maximum right here. You do see that Blizzard gives you a freezes length per level, but I find that incredibly, just incredibly unimportant. And since we're not using Blizzard here, we only have the 1 point to get down to the Frozen Orb synergy. So strictly, like I said, we are mainlining. The only attack spell we are using on this build is Glacial Spike. Of course, you want to get down to Cold Mastery, and because you get so much minus cold res here, we're down to minus 140. You could go ahead and use any remaining points to pump this up. Since Cold Mastery works at 1/5 efficiency after a monster is sundered, technically you could, in certain instances, utilize that extra minus res, but you're really, for every point, you're only getting minus 1 res. After I have every point that I'm talking about right now put into stuff, I actually had 17 points left over, so I could have went ahead and pumped this up a ton if you want to go that route. But what I decided to do to get more damage in a different way, we got all the remaining points we have here into warmth, and what that's going to do is allow us to do something a little bit different with our mercenaries gear, which if you're a veteran you probably know, but I'll talk about it more once we get to that guy. Now, looking at the gear, this is going to be a lot of the stuff you're going to use on endgame cold sorceresses of any kind, really. You could swap around if you want more magic find or to make up resistances. That'll be all up to you fellas, but here is what I went with. We have a faceted Death's Fathom right here, so you get 3 skills, FCR, and a bunch of plus cold skill damage and minus cold skill damage there, which comes from the facet. Kind of important for this build actually is the lightning and fire as make those up. Up on the top side here, we've got Nightwing's Veil, more plus skills damage, and we got another facet in there. We got 2 to skills. You also got some cold absorb as well, which can kind of help you out since that cold res ends up really low due to one of the charms down in the inventory. That is the Cold Thunder charm. So you get a little cold absorb right there. Up on the amulet, we got a 10 FCR caster amulet. You could even maybe go a little bit different here if you had an even better amulet, or if you couldn't get this, you can make up your FCR down at the ring spot when we talk about that in a second. Over here, we have a Spirit Monarch, 35 FCR. Everyone knows how godly the Spirit Monarch is. I decided to go with Enigma here. I just love getting the magic find in this build. The way I put it together, didn't prioritize magic find nearly as much as I usually do. So we get 100 right here because this character is level 99. And of course, super important, all that strength based upon character level. That means you can put a ton more points into vitality. And there's just a bazillion, gagillion things here on Enigma to help you out. Over here on the gloves, we have Mage Fist. Of course, we're getting the FCR right here. Some more mana regeneration, since I mentioned that we need to make that up because we don't get the insight on the spirit for this particular build. We got a couple of SOJs for a couple of skills, more increased maximum mana, skills, FCR, and more increased maximum mana here for the Arachnid's Mesh. And we got Alder's Boots here to make up the missing fire res that is on the Spirit Shield. You could go ahead, slap some War Travs over here. There's a billion different options, some good tri-res boots perhaps, to make up some more of that other stuff. Once again, that situation is going to be all up to whatever you prefer. And over here, we got a Call to Arms and, of course, another Spirit on swap. Jumping down to the charms right here, we've got Cold Skillers. This is all absolutely perfect gear. So this is pretty much going to be like the maximum that you can get out of this build. So Cold Skillers with life. We've got all res Magic Find charms to make up a little bit of Magic Find down here. And of course, you want to go Torch. We've got Annie. And we go ahead and we got a Cold Rupture. Getting a Geeds down here as well. Pulling out one of these charms would be great to do as well. But I went ahead and forgoed it. Forgoed it? I don't know if forgoed it is a real word, but we're rolling with it. I went ahead and didn't throw the Geeds down here and went with another skill Grand Charm. And now for the mercenary setup, I decided to not go with the insight. And in order to save all those points into Cold Mastery to put them somewhere else, I decided to go with Infinity over here. You got the Conviction Aura. Conviction does work at 1/5 efficiency on Sundered monsters, but of course it will minus their resistance as well. So even with that 1 point into Cold Mastery, any monster that is not immune to cold, we got them way down, pinned out at the maximum amount that they can be minus to. So also I decided to go with the Prayer Mercenary. That is also important to note. Even though we don't get the Meditation Aura and the Prayer synergy thing right there, we do have Cleansing Aura and Prayer. So this does actually give you roughly every other second about 60 life, which appears to be, I would say, about the speed at a potion of what it actually heals you. So it's not going to just heal you to maximum like it does on the Energy Shield Nova Sorceress. Part of that's because it has such a small life pool, but it still does keep your life. If you're slowly taking damage here and there and here and there, it will keep that up. On top of that, of course, if we're going with the Cure up here, you have that Cleansing Aura, gets rid of curses and poison damage, gets rid of that poison faster. Now, of course, we need the Life Leech and the All Res that we're not getting on the other things. So we have the Chains of Honor right here, 8 Life Leech, 65 to All Res. And of course, because of that Burroon, you got the damage reduction as well. Alright, let's jump to some areas real quick. On Players 1 difficulty, we'll talk about places it's good at, places maybe it's not so great at, but how good does it do there anyways. We'll try Players 1 and then Player 7 difficulty. Alrighty, through a little bit of testing here. P1, I'm going to go ahead and not use static. I'm just going to blast away. Andaryl's down A-okay, no problem. But Andaryl is super easy, so we'll go ahead and hop out to an 85 area that's good for cold builds, and that is the Stony Tombs. So I like to just absolutely telestomp everything and then just blast away. Pretty much, I play it like a Fireball Sorceress if you've ever done one of those. Telestomp, blast, 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 move on. Telestomp, blast, 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 move on here. In Players 1 down in the Stony Tombs, yeah, you can find every single item in the entire game down here because it is an 85 area, and it is good for cold builds because there is none of these regular monsters that are inherently cold immune. So yeah, Telestomp, once again, blast, blast, blast. I'm kind of excited to use this in the kind of near future here because I've been having a great time. Ooh, Ogre-X. Ooh, another Ogre-X. Let's go! I wouldn't usually recommend this out at Trav, but hey, why don't we go ahead and try it while we're here. Blast, 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 blast. And actually, my god, it actually just absolutely melts these guys. So yeah, I guess even a Players 1 Trav, you can blast away and take them out kind of no problem. Now Mephisto has a larger health pool than Andaryl. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to static him down here for P1. Wow. After static, it took 3 shots to chop out Mephisto here. I was kind of surprised. I'm going to be curious to see how that works on P7. Ooh, and another Ogre-X. My god. Also, yes, I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's a channel joke, fellas. Calm down. And we'll check real quick here. How about the Chaos Sanctuary? Oh, those guys got one-shotted. Those guys got one-shotted. These Venom Lords have a little bit more health. They actually take like 2 shots. The Demon Lords there, they took 2 shots as well. So still a pretty good clear speed. Even the Chaos Sanctuary, you could static and then literally everything would just be 1 shot from that point on. But it works pretty darn good. Now the area effect, as you've noticed, doesn't work quite as good as like Nova and stuff. It does have a blast radius for it, but it feels as though maybe it's slightly smaller than Fireball Sorceress. I'll just go ahead and clear this out real quick, and we'll see how it works on Big D himself. Let's see how he goes, and I'm not going to use static just to kind of see how much damage we're really outputting here. So between me and the Mercenary blasting away, I would say that was pretty quick. Now we got her set to Player 7, the maximum that you need if you're playing on single player anyways. So let's see how she handles. As we're telling down there, I do want to mention, I think I forgot to when I was talking about the build, the reason I went with the Prayer one is because we didn't need the Cold Aura because we're dealing cold damage. So I decided to go this way just to go ahead and knock that out. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to blast away instead of using static this time just to see how much damage we're outputting. Generally, I'd recommend using static here. So this is on the max player setting without using static. All right, it was a little bit on the slow side. It did definitely work, and we weren't in any danger at any time. So if I would have static that down, obviously it would have been almost pretty much twice as fast. Now we'll see how it works down here in the Players 7 Stony Tombs. Now down in this particular area, usually I'd think to static stuff, but so much stuff is immune to lightning down here that the static doesn't work great. So I just go ahead and just start blasting, you know what I mean? So kind of the similar situation, I just telestomp and just start blasting them. You can play this as a safer build stand back and shoot them like this from a distance, but I ain't got no time for that, and this build is kind of great at surviving anyway, so step up, blast, blast, blast. It kind of does even clear reasonably well, especially in these areas that are really good for cold immunes with this particular setup. So I feel like you don't need to see any more testing down in this area. It works pretty dang good. Let's move on to another area. So I've never tried Trav on a higher player count like this, so let's just YOLO in and see how it goes. Now I'm just blasting away. It is taking down their damage, but I'm gonna say this isn't particularly fun, especially for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say player 7-8 difficulty Trav, probably not the best option for this build. Now, how about Mephisto here though? Now I'm gonna static him down for sure and then start blasting. Definitely works. It works reasonably well. Not the literal fastest in the entire game, but I would definitely call that working pretty well. Not every build in the entire game can just telestomp Mephisto and blast them down without any issue. Now we're hopping into player 7 Chaos, and it actually just became terrorized. Now I did already try this, so I know how it's gonna go, but let's go ahead and see here. We'll static him down, blast away, and it kills stuff reasonably well. Now this isn't gonna be the fastest and the funnest for most people, but it definitely does actually work. As you can see, obviously in a terrorized zone as well, it gets even harder because the monsters are even higher level. But is what it is for the test. I would say it's a little bit slow. I personally wouldn't do this with this particular build. I'd probably swap the build for sure if this is really what I wanted to do. Even player 7-8 difficulty that wasn't terrorized, it still was a little bit of a slog fest. So even though it does work here in the Chaos Sanctuary, I would generally use this build sticking to places Andariel, perhaps maybe that Mephisto. If either one terrorized, I definitely would. You could run P1 Trav or hop into the Stony Tombs.